All right, thank you, Phil, for inviting me to this. A little bit nervous. So I'm going to tell the story in about half an hour, I think it will last, of Relentless software. The subject is kind of pivoting, I'm going to point out where the pivot points might be, and then it's kind of teeing up for the discussion afterwards, whether they really are pivots or not, or what preceded. Well, I'm quite interested in thinking about this and what happened before the pivot, as well as after, because we know what happened after, but were the events before pivotal? There you go. So, biting the bullet. Wrong controller. Oh, this is where my controller doesn't know. Got this. Or I also like to call it auto disrupt, and because this is also about internal disruption, which I'm quite good at, it turns out. So this is me. I'm Andrew Eades. I don't know if Twitter has case sensitivity, but this is my Twitter handle. As you know, I'm the founder and CEO of Relentless Software. We make video games, in case you don't know. And a lot of this is about video games. So who plays video games here for a start? Yeah, enough, okay. As Phil mentioned, I'm also on the board of Wired Sussex. I'm also involved in the University of Brighton Industrial Advisory Board as well. I'm a non-exec on Better Now, which has actually pivoted to consult experts, and that is based on the failure of Better Now. So, the failure of Better Now, what we found is actually we found a better business, which we're now calling consult experts. I'm a hobbyist coder. I have hobby projects that I do. In fact, the two I'm mentioning here, Inbox Hero, I've been working on for years, because I hate the way email works, so I decided to improve it. And the other one is Password Butler, which actually fell out of Inbox Hero, and I've actually accidentally got funding for it recently. So, I also founded a company called GameJack recently, and working with the University of Brighton, bringing a student on board to make a game. So I'm quite excited about that. So on with the story. First of all, a kind of video about Relentless is actually kind of show reel. It's a little bit out of date because we make games so quickly you can't keep up with the video. So that gives you some idea of some of the output we've done in the last 10 years. As I say, there's some extra stuff here. So yes, this is about pivoting, and I was speaking to Caitlin earlier about whether this is the same pivoting as the Californian version. So we're going to find out. As I say, I haven't read the Lean Startup yet, so I don't know. But so, as I say, we're going to talk about the story. It's hard to compress 10 years into half an hour. I'm going to try, and we'll talk about that, the pivoting and the disruption afterwards. But it actually started in 2002. I started work at a company called Computer Artworks, which was founded as an organic screensaver. Does anyone remember this? So did anyone remember screensavers? Christ. Obviously, the screensaver market must have dried up at some point, and they pivoted to making video games. They made video games like The Thing, which is a game made from based on the John Carpenter version of The Thing. It was pretty good. We got reasonably good reviews, and William Latham built Computer Artworks up to be a multi-game studio with locations in London and Brighton. I started in the Brighton office. But basically, I started to do a game called DJ Decks and Effects, which was a DJ mixing game. It wasn't a third-person survival horror, which is what Computer Artworks did. That's all they did. It didn't really fit. The tech was all wrong. You know, we had rain, weather effects were coming out of our ears, but we didn't have any sound libraries when we were doing a very complicated sound game. So it never really fitted, and I thought it was a very strange thing to be doing in this company, but I was quite happy to be doing it because I wanted to live in Brighton, so that was my main reason. But what I did do is I kind of collected my team up in a corner of the studio in Brighton, and I ignored everything else in the company. I quit core tech. I told them I'm not paying for core tech. I froze the build. I changed compilers. It was like a company within a company, which in the end was a really good idea, but I didn't know why it would be a good idea, because what happened in 2003 is Computer Artworks went bust spectacularly, leaving us all with no jobs, not paying us. And basically, I had a ready-made company inside Computer Artworks, which we could kind of take out, and continued the project with Sony, our publisher. So, without meaning to, I protected myself from the inevitable, which was Computer Artworks going bust. When we founded Relentless, we decided that we were going to go for a wider audience, a non-gaming audience. DJ wasn't really a game. It doesn't even have a score. It's not a game. It's a party app. It's really good for parties, but you can't compete at it. And we kind of thought, well, we're in the music game business. We'll do that. So this is kind of pivot one. We changed our audience. Our gamer audience became non-gamers. So we had to, as gamers and game designers, we think in certain ways. And we think about designing games for gamers, and non-gamers don't understand what we're doing. And my example from this, which is the bit I pinched from the last thing, is a slight, does anyone know what this is? You can't answer, you two. Anyone? This is a non-gamer audience. All right, who does know? Superb. It's a block from Super Mario. Now these blocks, what you do is you bounce on them, they smash, you get a coin or something good. This is what games do. All games have this in. This is, no one's going to know this. You can, perfect. Full marks. Have a free beer. The point is, Portal is a game, it's an amazingly brilliant game, and heavily features crates that you move around. And the point of this slight tangent is, when we design games, game designers talk about, they put crates in because gamers know that if you smash a crate with a crowbar, you'll get health. Now, in real life, if you've come across a crate, which is rare, and you have a crowbar on you, which is even rarer, you don't tend to smash it and expect a health kit to come out. But gamers do. That's the instinct from gamers. So that's how you design a game. But it uses that language. And when we were writing, I found this website which is dedicated to crates and barrels in games. So if you're interested, I recommend going to it. I spent hours delving into it. But these are how important these things are to games. But when we designed Buzz, the music quiz, which is our first breakout hit, we couldn't think in terms of games and game design. Traditional game design, the language that we use, the shortcuts that we have, like crate equals health, But we decided that if we were going to make a game for everyone, we use what they understand, which is TV. So we design a game which is essentially a TV game show that you take part in. It's a virtual TV game show, if you like. And it comes with buzzers. You don't use a controller. It comes with its own game show-like buzzers. It allows 4 people to play as contestants in a game show. And by doing that, we know that most people watch TV, most people watch the TV game show, so we can shortcut the rules to the game. So we don't have to explain smash crate to get health, because everyone knows press buzzer to answer question. And that's how we designed Buzz. It was hugely successful. I worked this out the other week. There was a Buzz game in the top 20 in the UK for 77 consecutive weeks, which is phenomenal. Hardly ever happened. I don't think that does happen in a PlayStation chart, ever. Yeah, I'm very proud we won our BAFTA in 2006 as well. So it seemed to do the trick. But what this meant was Relentless became Buzz. You know, we very cleverly tied our name to our best-selling product, even though our publisher Sony owned it. We had an exclusive contract with Sony, and but everyone knows Buzz as Relentless's game, not Sony's game, which is deliberate action on my part to associate us with our successful game. I got in trouble with Sony eventually with that because they don't like it, because they think it's their game. We ended up with one game, making a company of at its height 120 people, all working pretty much on one game, one platform, PlayStation, with one publisher. From the early days when we started with 9 people. Then PlayStation 3 came along in 2007, I think it was launched. And the interesting thing about PlayStation 3 for me was PlayStation Network, or PSN as is known, allowed us for the first time to go direct to consumer, to self-publish. So we can upload our game to their portal and people can browse it on their PlayStation and they can purchase our game. And this was, really good for us to be able to actually, not work, when you're being published by a publisher, they hold all the rights and all the power. They do all the marketing though. And they do, in the old model where you had actual discs in a shop, there's a whole distribution and retail network that has to, take their cut. So by the time you get your cut of a hit game, it's pennies, not pounds. With digital distribution coming in 2007, this is, I don't know when, this is about the time iPhones launched. This is pretty new stuff. It was a really good opportunity for us to kind of show that we weren't just Buzz, that we could make other stuff and we could self-publish. So in 2008, we decided to make a game that we own, because Sony, even though we created Buzz, Sony owned the IP for Buzz. So how do you decide? You've got 100 people making Buzz. What do you do? How do you decide what game you should be making? And this was a real challenge for us. I couldn't figure it out, and it worried me a lot because we had lots of ideas, and we used to do like these away day idea generation days, and we'd come up with amazingly good ideas. I was kind of, well, how do you choose the right one to do? I don't know. And I was wandering around Churchill Square one lunchtime, and I was in WH Smith, and I noticed that it was the 25th anniversary of Trivial Pursuit. And this kind of struck a chord with me. It's like, well, I remember playing Trivial Pursuit when it came out. I didn't realise it was that long ago, I remember having arguments with my dad about Trivial Pursuit because he it was like that traditional Christmas game that you used to play. And when we designed Buzz, we were thinking about that same moment. Instead of getting out the board game after Christmas dinner, you get Buzz out and you play it with your family. It was designed with that in mind. So we referenced Trivial Pursuit all the time. So I thought, well, if it's 25 years old and I can remember playing it when it came out, I wonder what's next to it in the shop. And so I went to the board game section of WH Smith and I looked at what was next, and you obviously got Cluedo and Monopoly. You could probably predict that. And that really, that was the kind of the first idea, is like, it's really easy actually. We don't have to have all these innovation days. All we have to do is, I even shortcutted going to this shop. I went to Argos, got the catalogue and looked at the board game page, which I took a photo of today. And you can see you've still got Trivial Pursuit and Cluedo and Monopoly on that page. And that's so I came back to the studio in 2008 and said, we need Cluedo and Monopoly. And I don't mean like facsimiles of Cluedo and Monopoly. I mean like when we took the core mechanic of Trivial Pursuit, which is answering questions, can we take the core mechanic of Cluedo or Monopoly and turn that into a digital game? And this is the way to pick games. So that's the Argus catalogue test. And it's interesting, what you see also on this here is draw something, which wasn't out at the time, but actually is basically, this is perverse, but Pictionary was made into a digital game called Draw Something, which sold for $180 million, and Hasbro then bought the license to make Draw Something, which is which is a digital version of Pictionary. So someone's going to make another digital, I don't know, it will go on forever. But bizarrely, this is it. So we tried both Monopoly and Cluedo, and Cluedo was the most successful. So hence the next game, Murder Files.
The quietest, and most colony, safest village in all of the
Who shot the mayor? He was an idiot.
I hated him. He was good looking. Maybe he was such a...
Hannah Dakota may look innocent, but is a suppressed tiger. Rawr. Richard Dick Dickens, blessed with a big brain. Lucky boy. Miss Marjorie Maple may appear helpless, but has more than a few boiled sweets in that old bag of hers. Lambert Vander Bosch, who knows what he can frisk up or down with that moustache of his. Become the next detective extraordinaire in Murder Files.
That's enough of that. Right. I'm glad you like it. So that's our take on Cluedo. You can see that it's got characters that are kind of influenced by Cluedo, and we put it into a kind of English village because we wanted to make it quite British and colloquial. And it's got a narrative which Cluedo doesn't really have, but it's also a puzzle game, which Cluedo is really a logic puzzle game. So that's where we came up with that. We first launched that in December 2009, and it's still going strong. We still sell copies of this game every week. It's 2014 now. We actually launched the iOS version April last year. And we've just released a kind of, not a sequel, but a product that sits with it called Murder Files: The Enigma Express, and I've got a short video on that.
Find hidden objects, connect the clues, travel the world, and become the next detective extraordinaire. Now what are you waiting for? You can start playing the Enigma Express for free.
Go off quickly. So that's don't read that. So that's what we did with the idea of taking Cluedo. So 2010, March 2010. I remember this board meeting really well because I hated the outcome and I really struggled with it for a while. I think at the board meeting I said something like, "We need to change. Console is dead, guys. Wake up. Facebook's killing it, the games industry, and mobile's going to do even more damage to it. We need to get out of here." My business partner at the time said, "Get your hands off the mute button." And I was kind of outvoted on the board and in senior management meetings. So, I thought, well, okay, I could be wrong. I wasn't wrong. I was told, we are a console company. I said, right, okay, so we're a console company. Good, okay, so I worked really hard to support that idea. But really we weren't, it's easy with hindsight to see this, but we weren't a console company. We weren't making console games because we were a great console company. What we were doing was supporting Sony's strategy of widening their audience to non-gamers. We were really good at that. But when we stopped when we misunderstood what we were, we got into all sorts of trouble. And I've since read The Innovator's Dilemma, and basically it's clear, our customer Sony was driving our agenda. We weren't in control. As much as I tried to push us in one direction, we were just squeezed back in the other direction. So, but we did decide to leave Sony. It was disastrous year, not because we left Sony, it would have been disastrous either way, but because we made bad decisions in March, or who knows, maybe if we'd gone my way in March it would have been worse, who knows. But we had a contract with Disney that got cancelled. We couldn't land anything with anyone. We tried really hard, all over the world I was travelling to try and find a project for us. We couldn't do it. By the end of 2010, we were on, we had loads of cash in the bank, but we had no business. It was just one last trip to Microsoft in Seattle in December 2010, and that changed that position. And we turned into an interactive TV company. This might be a pivot. I don't think this is a pivot. We did a deal with Microsoft to create interactive TV. And we did that for 2 years, and it was hard work for the teams involved. I travelled to Seattle pretty much every single month, so that's a long trip to be doing every month for 2 years. It was based on Kinect. Now I'm guessing my non-gamer audience doesn't know what Kinect is, but it's a camera-based motion sensing device that you can make controller-free gaming. And Kinect was doomed, unfortunately. It got out of the blocks really quickly, but it wasn't quite up to the promise, and it soon lost resonance with customers. I've got brilliantly, I've got a video which explains what interactive TV is from our point of view, because we actually made 2 series of interactive TV, and here it is.
Hi, I'm Casey Anderson, and this is my best friend Brutus. You're going to be transformed into bears just like Brutus. Remember, this is TV that you play. And eat as many as you can, like this. Raise the hand that matches the side you want to choose. Shout, snap! See the subject of your assignment.
So if you don't quite see all of that, what happens is you see yourself on the TV screen with like a massive bear head and claws, and you get to play, and it's a natural history thing by National Geographic, and that presenter is Casey, and he's like the Steve Irwin of bears in America. He's got quite a big following, and that is his bear. His bear's called Brutus, that's the idea of that game. Was we got you watching a natural history program, and then we kind of drew you into dressing up as a bear, and the kids love it. I mean, it's just a whole bunch of fun to put a bear head on virtually, and it works. The fact that you don't really have it on doesn't seem to make a difference. It's a really nice project. Unfortunately, what happened was Microsoft's ambitions in interactive TV and Kinect-based things stopped when they hired a new head of interactive TV in LA, which obviously just completely stopped the entire program, much to our annoyance, because we were planning on doing a lot more of that, and we worked so hard on it. But in the meantime, whilst we were doing that, we had an 80-strong studio working, really hard on that game. Did a brilliant job. We invented a version of interactive TV. I mean, when we started the project, no one really knew what interactive TV was or is. So we had to invent it and then deliver it. So we did a really good job. But I was, I guess, slightly frustrated, so I hired a mobile producer, and we split the company into two divisions, console and mobile, or old and new, you could say. And I didn't do this deliberately, but I seem to repeat history. I created a startup within Relentless with just one person, and we planned to build a mobile self-publishing division out of that. We actually got a mobile client, I think it was 2012, it might have been 2011 actually. So my tiny mobile division of one person, we managed to get a client, Hasbro. Hasbro really works well with Relentless. You know, I was showing you the August catalogue full of Hasbro board games. And they asked us, they said, they phoned me up and said, we really need some help here because we're starting to think about integrating board games and toys with apps. We don't know what to do though. We really want to do it. Can you design it for us? And I said, yeah, of course we can. You know, when do you want it? Oh, in 2 weeks' time, please. So, oh, right, okay, so now we've got to invent, you know, how, it was Battleship at the time, how would you make Battleship work as a board game and an app? So we did that in 2 weeks. And that was a small job that is now over nearly half the business at Relentless is based on working in integrated play with Hasbro. So back to the bigger studio. So that was sort of being nurtured and being treated as much more as a startup. It was actually based in my CEO office at the time, so it wasn't even affecting the studio. In February 2013, it was clear that there was no more work coming from Microsoft, so we closed the console division. You know, that was a big moment for Relentless. There was a lot of contractors whose contracts weren't renewed. There's a few redundancies. It was not a pleasant moment at all. And that also, I think, the co-founder left in April 2013. You know, I think he'd had enough by then. The mobile division that I started in the CEO office became Relentless. It's almost the same as my isolated DJ team in Computer Artworks became Relentless before. Now I was kind of accidentally did it again. And throughout 2013, I went through the company, restructured it, removed layers of management which were more appropriate for a large 80-man console studio, which didn't make any sense where we were at, and then pushed us really hard into self-publishing. And then in November 2013, I acquired the shares I didn't have in Relentless, so I'm now 100% shareholder in it. So this is the second pivot. Calling it the rebirth pivot. It's quite hippie. It was about become an intellectual property owning, self-publishing developer. What I wanted to do from 2008 was struggled to push. We could now do. You know, the reason we couldn't do it before was we were client obsessed. And I'm not saying in a bad way, but we were 100% laser focused on what our clients want, to the detriment of everything else. You know, we would steal people from not important self-publishing projects to fulfill client demands, which I put a stop to last year. And then I've been as I said, I've been trying to do this for a long time. You know, it's what I wanted to do with Relentless, not necessarily what everyone else wanted to do. And we're now, I would say, about 50-50 client and self-publishing. So that's a massive turnaround from the 90-10 to 50-50, and I plan to be, you know, by 2017, 90-10 self-publishing. And, you know, I still like what we do with our clients. I still find it interesting and innovative work. You know, maybe it should be 100%, and maybe I should split the company in two at that point. I don't know. But that's the ambition. That's the end of the thing. And these are the final slide, some pictures. So we work on Murder Files, and Enigma Express is the latest version of that. This is something we've done with, has anyone seen the Furbies? Right, so, sorry. We helped make that the UK's #1 toy in last year, because the app, and we've got the designer of the app over there, is really important. This is what integrated play is about. This is seen as the exemplar project within Hasbro's integrated play unit on how you build toys and apps together, and we can do a better job. You know, we just keep learning, but this is what we refer to, and it works because it's a pre-sales tool, so people can download the app, and they get hundreds of thousands of downloads before they put the toys in the shops, you know, generating interest. But also, the whole point was, Hasbro came to me and said, our problem is we sell toys, children open them on Christmas, and then they play with them for 2 weeks, and then it goes into the back of the toy cupboard, and it never comes out again. And we have to start re-engaging them all the time to remind them of the amazing toys that we're making in the updates. What we want is to make them more engaging for longer. And we think we can do that by adding digital innovation like apps to that proposition. And it appears to be working really well. So I'm really proud of that work we're doing with Hasbro. And then I put quiz, and that's our Quizzle from our Quiz Climber game there. Because next year we're going back to quiz, which is where we've historically been really successful in, and coming back with some pretty big quiz products. And that is the end. Time to talk.